Welcome back to the Lion Week in Review. We're on the campus of Carnegie Mellon University today for Dave McCormick, Senator of Pennsylvania's first ever Pennsylvania Energy Summit. He's invited the President of the United States to attend. Several cabinet members of the President's will be here too. And they'll be discussing this critical conversation, energy going forward in 2025 and beyond. As we know, AI is coming on strong. You need power, and a lot of it, from nuclear to natural gas and so much more. That'll be the discussion. How does this economy flourish with the energy needs that we need? How are we going to produce energy in a clean, reliable, constant way? These are discussions that are going to happen behind us today, and we've got some great conversations coming up a little later in the show. Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for your time today.
Great to be with you, Chris.
We are talking about energy in a state that I know a little bit about, but I know that this is constantly called one of the biggest sources of energy beneath our feet right here in the Keystone State. True?
It is. It is the world's largest shale gas deposit, world's largest producer of shale gas. Huge upside. Pennsylvania as a state is the second largest exporter of energy after Texas out of its state, and could be bigger, of course, if there was more pipeline capacity or more industry in Pennsylvania.
One of the most fascinating things that's going to come out of today, and I know you've talked a lot about it well before now, the president immediately when he hit the ground in this new administration started talking about AI, and right behind the need for development in AI is the energy to power it. I mean, they're almost hand in glove. I know it's developing at lightning speed, but it also needs energy, yes?
Absolutely. AI is the next energy-intensive manufacturing industry. It takes the highest form of energy, electricity, and turns it into intelligence. That's truly transformative to business, to science, to national security. AI is simply critical. It is. I've compared it to the Manhattan Project from World War II, where we had a rushed development of the atomic bomb. We had to beat Nazi Germany, who was also working on developing an atomic bomb. AI, I've called the second Manhattan Project. Not only will be uplifting for our society, but we must win. It is a national security threat if China pulled ahead and led us meaningfully in AI. We need to stop that.
And I hear that there are at least 3 nuclear facilities coming online to power individual companies' needs. Is that about right? Microsoft, Amazon, maybe Google, I heard, or am I making that up?
So no, that's right. Some of these are repowering nuclear plants that were shut down, dedicating existing plants to AI. That's a great start. But yeah, we'll need a huge amount of new power to do it. But yeah, from all different sources.
And that was my question next. If these individual companies are able to online and effectively restart nuclear facilities, is that a source of energy that we should all be discussing for just our consumer needs in the future, in your view?
Absolutely.
And will they make it more normalized? It's been a boogeyman for a long time. Do you think it'll be less the boogeyman now that big tech is using it for their energy needs?
I think that's right. I think that's absolutely right. I've been a passionate pro-nuclear guy my entire life. I went to college to work on nuclear energy, many years ago. And you're right, it's been a boogeyman. It hasn't really grown for the last 3 or 4 decades. We need it to grow. We want it to grow. And absolutely, big tech's embrace of nuclear energy, very helpful financially for the money they will invest into it, and also on a messaging front. I think they were off track for a while, talking about the world was all going to be run on wind and solar panels, which is complete nonsense. But that message got believed more widely because all of big tech delivered that message to the youth and the people across our country, and them now all embracing nuclear, absolutely very helpful.
Oil. We were awash in it. You and I have talked about this before. President Trump's first term, there were literally tankers holding oil off our shores because we didn't know where to put it all. Are we going to get back to that place?
I would say yes, absolutely. Yeah, U.S. oil production is at all-time highs right now. We're, depending upon how you count it, we're either 50% or 100% larger producer than the next biggest producer, Saudi Arabia and Russia. Hugely beneficial for our country, hugely beneficial for the world.
We have been talking a lot about copper and precious metals and relying on foreign countries for that. I know there's been a serious discussion about copper mining and other precious metals here? Is that more Department of Interior than maybe your wheelhouse? But can you speak to any of that?
It's the whole Trump administration. President Trump has just seen what happens when you don't do big things or outdoor things or big things in your country. You just let all those industries go overseas. You become feeble. You're just entirely dependent upon other countries to deliver these key materials. In fact, Friday, I was at the first coal mine opened in Wyoming in 50 years, and only the second rare earth element mine in the United States, just opening now. These are materials we're entirely dependent on China for.
Is it environmental? Is that what it was, Mr. Secretary, that just environmental reasons we weren't mining the copper and the precious metals here at home? Is that all that's kept us from that, or what is it?
Our mining, we were the biggest miner in the world, and our mining has shrunk for environmental things. It took so long to permit, everyone protested doing everything, so that's what pushed mining away. Rare earth elements, it's that plus another factor. China has invested tens of billions of dollars wanting to control the entire supply chain so they would have huge leverage over us. So there's also economic reasons. These prices go up high, and if people want to invest in it, China crashes the prices. China had a strategic reason to dominate the rare earth element supply chain. They've succeeded at it, but it's too much leverage over us. We've got to reverse that. And under this administration, we will.
What is the supply of precious metals? We talked about natural gas and all that we're sitting on, shale and whatnot. Precious metals, do you happen to know? Is there any kind of estimate as to what we're sitting on here domestically if we were to tap into it?
Oh, huge amount. These rare earth elements, we have huge deposits in the United States. We could be entirely self-sufficient from production here. And in fact, we should grow our capacity so much that we're not just self-sufficient for the United States, but that we export them to our allies. Not just the mining of the rare earth elements. You've got to process them and refine them and then construct them into the magnets, which is mostly what they're used for. Any device with a button on it has rare earth elements in it. We need to build that whole supply chain up to the product that goes into washing machines and cars and jet airplanes, fighter jets. Almost everything we build has them in it. Right now, they're all imported. We need to get that domestic supply here, but we could supply our entire needs from our own resources.
3.5 years still to go, roughly. And assuming you're still in this same post, the president, everything's copacetic, where do you project energy costs? Could you even project energy costs in terms of people's consumer bills at home, for their electric bill to their prices of the gas pump? Would you project, or is it too hard to do?
Well, a key thing is, I want to. A key thing is, electricity prices rose over 25% during the 4 years of the Biden administration. That's just crippling to American people, and they're rightfully mad about it. Now we're going to have huge growth in electricity production to win the AI arms race. But at the same time, equally important, maybe even more important, is to keep energy prices down. I believe you'll see meaningfully cheaper energy prices across the board. Gasoline, diesel, home heating, electricity, meaningfully cheaper than during the Biden administration. Electricity is the hardest one because it takes years to really change our electricity grid. So the first thing we have to do there is stop the upward pressure on electricity and have maybe flat electricity prices after maybe this first year in the administration taking over. But gasoline and diesel prices, I feel pretty good. They will be meaningfully cheaper during the 4 years of the Trump administration than they were the 4 years of the Biden administration. And we got to bring industry back.
Yes.
We got to manufacture semiconductors and steel and aluminum and more cars. We're going to build big things in our country again. Very excited about that. That is President Trump's agenda.
And a lot of corporate America is interested. Some of those figureheads are here today. I know you're going to be on panels discussing that. Have you noticed there's been a lot of buy-in from corporate America with the administration?
A huge buy-in from our domestic companies, from overseas companies. Everybody realizes, oh my God, America, the world's industrial powerhouse that was slowly strangling itself. It's back open for business. It's a great place to invest. It's a great place with the workforce we have here, with the consumer markets we have here, and with the natural resources. But yes, the corporate buy-in is tremendous.
Mr. Secretary, it was great to see you in person. Welcome back to Pennsylvania. We look forward to what you have to say today.
Thanks, Chris. Always great to talk with you.
Senator, it's a pleasure to see you here in Pittsburgh in person.
Great to be with you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate all your time. You have been kind enough to invite us to this first ever energy summit, which is looking pretty well attended, my friend.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's the first energy and innovation summit. None of this could happen without President Trump. I had asked him soon after the election. He said, "What can I do to help you?" I said, "Please come to Pittsburgh. During the 2017, you said, I'm elected to serve the people of Pittsburgh, not Paris. And I said, let's make that a reality. Let's have you come to Pittsburgh. We'll do an energy and innovation summit. And I had a sort of a sense of what to be. It like all good things in my life, it came from my wife. This was her idea. And so what we've done is we've invited, and this hasn't happened before, energy CEOs, technology CEOs, big investors. You need all three. The trades, the building trades, leadership at the national level and Pennsylvania, come together to say, let's invest in Pennsylvania. And let's say that Pennsylvania should be at the forefront of the energy revolution and the AI revolution. And so today we have 60 major CEOs. We have the building trades leadership. We have $90 billion of commitments in our Commonwealth in terms of data centers, energy production, transmission, distribution, operations, and we have big commitments, millions of dollars to help train skilled workers. This goal of this was threefold. One, get those commitments. Two, tell Pennsylvania's story. As I just told you, there's 150 media people here. And then finally, I said to the president, I think this is what closed the deal, this allows us to deliver on the promises we made to working families.
Well, let me just also point out to the folks that aren't here, there's a guest in attendance today that's notable to me because he was once considered a front runner to run against this president on the ticket. Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, many believe will want to be president again someday. Yeah. The fact that he's attending, what does that tell us?
Well, we did an event last night with Senator Fetterman, and Josh Shapiro's here, the governor's here for a panel with me, with the president of Amazon, because the president of Amazon just announced a $20 billion investment in Pennsylvania that the governor and I worked on together. And listen, if you laid out the things that Josh Shapiro and I agree on and disagree on, we probably disagree on more things than we agree on. Yep. But the thing that I said during the campaign was, I am going to deliver on these promises. And if you're in a state like Pennsylvania and you want to create energy jobs and AI data centers, you got to be able to work across the aisle. Senator Fetterman and I have sponsored a bunch of legislation, and in the case of energy and innovation, I don't agree with the governor on everything, but we've found a lot of ways to work together.
It's undeniable. We've been talking about this for years. We talked about this during your candidacy. They say that we are the Saudi Arabia of natural gas in Pennsylvania.
That's it.
And we know that 3 Mile Island is being online for AI production. I mean, this is kind of, now it's become what oil was to Texas.
It's incredible. We're number 4 in the world in natural gas reserves. The big problem is we haven't been able to get our natural gas out of the ground and in pipelines to get it to the world. So we need permitting reform to be able to...
Now, where's a guy like Shapiro on that?
Listen, on the state's side, he's made some progress on permitting reform, and I'm on the Energy Committee, and I'm the chairman of the Energy Subcommittee. My number one goal, once we get through the summer here, is permitting reform, bipartisan legislation. And what happened, I think, I'm not inside the Democrats' heads, but I think 2024, particularly in Pennsylvania, made it clear that you cannot be opposed to fracking. Yeah. Right? We have to have this energy for national security purposes, for our economic well-being, to be able to lead the AI revolution. So I think that's in the water. And I think the Democratic Party sees it, at least those that want to win races in Pennsylvania. And so I think that offers an opportunity for me.
We're going to learn a lot today. If I could shift quickly to some news. Speaking of energy, the president made some news here. He's saying in the next 50 days, if Vladimir Putin does not knock it off effectively with Ukraine, 100% tariffs against anybody who's doing business with him effectively. Yeah. What does that say to you?
Chris, you and I have talked about this on your show a number of times. I have always been one who thinks that we had an interest in Ukraine not being overwhelmed by Russia. I always thought Russia was the aggressor. I always thought we needed to be careful and never put boots on the ground, but that we should support Ukraine with military equipment. I love the way the president was approaching it, which is have a ceasefire on the lines they're on, have an economic arrangement so we get access to those rare earth metals. That creates a deterrent for Russia going further, and then make the Europeans step up, which they have unbelievably under President Trump.
Can we speak to that delineation? Because I think a lot of people have missed this, and the president's been pretty clever this way, I think, and not clever, by half and winking. I mean, he is there's a return on the weaponry being sent. The EU is buying it, and then they're distributing it as they see fit. And that's the distinction between just sending them weaponry.
Absolutely. So the American people, listen, I'm someone who was a soldier, 20 years of war. We are tired of war. We are tired of sending our young men and women and having them come home mangled. We are tired of the economic burden of that. That doesn't mean that we should completely retract from playing a leadership role in the war. And I think the president gets that better than anybody. His actions in Iran, very targeted, very limited, not exposing the United States military. Same in Ukraine. I'm a co-sponsor of the legislation to put sanctions back on Putin. I've met Putin several times when I worked for President Bush. This guy's a thug.
Yeah.
He only knows how to deal in power and strength. And I think President Trump is showing strength. He's showing flexibility, but strength. And so I support his position 100%.
I don't know if you know a lot about economics, and I don't know if you were a big tariff guy in the early going, but I think so far it seems that it's not really.
I was not a
damaging
big
the
tariff guy
economy.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
and I think I believed, probably naively, that we would move down a path where other countries would lower their tariffs and lower their non-tariff barriers. And the fact remains that here we are 20 years later, China enters the WTO, and President Trump is able to stand up and say, we are getting mistreated. We are being unfairly treated around the world. We have to change that. I agree with him 100%. Using tariffs to change that and create fundamental fairness. And he does it in a very expansive way. It's not just tariffs. It's tariffs, non-tariff barriers, currency, and investing in the United States. We need balance. And I was with a bunch of German CEOs the other day, and they said, how could you do this? What's the... And I said, think about it this way. It's like a marriage. Sometimes marriages get out of balance. And one person comes to the other and says, listen, it's not working. We need to change things. Yep. And that doesn't mean you're getting divorced.
Yeah.
It means you have to change things. We have an imbalance in our relationship with Japan, our relationship with Korea, our relationship with Europe, our relationship with Mexico and Canada. We need to get, and the most unbalanced is with China.
Yes.
We need to get that back into balance. And I think the only way to do that is through strength.
The president has been very clear. He wants the Fed chair to lower interest rates. Where are you on interest rates right now?
Well, listen, I think he's missed. I think the Fed chair has missed. I think we should lower interest rates. And I think he's essentially saying, the Fed chair, this is, that the uncertainty around the tariffs is giving the Federal Reserve Board pause.
Is that a partisan view? Because it doesn't seem to be. That's true.
My point is that's not what the data
Yeah.
has said. I think the businesses are seeing through the tariffs. I think they know the president's a pragmatic guy. He's trying to negotiate better deals. And when the dust settles, and now I wish we would get more deals sooner, because I think that would squeeze some of the uncertainty out of the markets. But I think the markets basically see, listen, this guy's pragmatic. And when the dust settles, we're going to have a better set of circumstances than we have today. And I think that's ultimately how the economy is responding. But the other thing I'm going to say on the economy is think of it as like an aircraft carrier. It's like 4 or 5 big dials. Deregulation. That's what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
Energy dominance. That's what we're talking about today. Making permanent tax cuts and new tax cuts. That's what we're talking about today. That's all wind at the back of the economy. That's all pushing the economy in the right direction. Tariffs had created some uncertainty early on. As the markets see through that, I think what we're seeing is people are saying, wow, this economy's on fire. This is a president who wants to create jobs. Big opportunity.
Do you think, Senator, that one of the huge linchpins to really the economy roaring is showing that Congress and this president are committed to reducing the size of government through things like maybe rescission packages? More rescissions? Can we expect to see more, do you think?
I think you'll see a couple. I think you'll see a couple, and absolutely. But I think rescissions are important because they're symbolic of a we can do this. We can do this, right? These are things that were passed, but we now see through Doge and other things that those aren't good decisions. To really bend the curve, we're going to have to do more, a lot more.
Are you of the opinion, like many say, we can't just grow our way out of the economy, we do have to cut?
I'm of the opinion that we have to do all those things.
Yeah.
But most certainly, when people start to panic about debt as a percentage of GDP or the deficit as a percentage of GDP, all that gets a heck of a lot easier when the economy is growing at 3%.
Yes.
So we cannot stall the economy. So all these pro-growth policies the president's put in place are absolutely necessary. That's going to, if you go to the 3% growth, 3% deficit, debt is 3% of GDP, that is very plausible. But the long pole in the tent is growth, but we also have to bend the curve. We have costs, particularly in the last 4 years under Biden, that are spiraling under control. It's been a bipartisan problem, by the way. You look back decades, but everybody's overspent. But it was a hockey stick under President Biden, and we need to reel that in. And stuff.
Can I just ask you something political real quick? Yeah. It's just something funny that occurred to me, and I hadn't even thought about it when I knew I was going to talk to you today. Now that Dr. Oz is part of this administration, I know there was a bit of a history there. Have you guys talked?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
What's your relationship with Dr. Oz now?
It's very practical and cordial.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, and there was a tough campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, you interviewed me and him during that.
Politics are ugly, but I mean,
I saw him. I was in the Capitol. I saw him walk down the hall. I had to vote for him, of course.
Yeah.
So he came for a courtesy call. And listen, when we're going through the Medicaid reform and all that, I call him and say he knows Pennsylvania, and I say, okay, what are we gonna do for Pennsylvania? This rural health care fund. What are we gonna do for rural hospitals in Pennsylvania? So I think I've got a partner there that only in American politics, but here we are a couple years later, and we're working together.
Final question. I know you got to run, and that is, I know you're not inclined to help Democrats, but I do like to always ask you about your colleague, Senator Fetterman, who you mentioned. We know the progressive left, they're aiming at the guy, and they haven't let up. Do you think he's running again, and can he withstand that progressive base attack?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if he's running again. I look at him, and it's, I'm a newcomer to politics, but I find him to be what you would want, someone to be is your other senator, particularly if there's only 3 states in the country that have a Republican and a Democrat in the Senate. And so if he and I listed all the things that we believe in, we disagree more than we agree. Yeah. But we basically have said, listen, we're not going to spend time beating on each other for the things we disagree on. We're going to focus on the things we agree on. Support for Israel, fight against anti-Semitism, energy, and creating great jobs in Pennsylvania, the steel industry in Pennsylvania. Like, we got a lot of things we can work on together. So, I hope he won't get, beat up too much by the crazies in his party, but I think he's a great partner.
Senator, we appreciate the invitation to Pittsburgh today. Thank you,
Thanks.
Sir.
Good to see you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look at what we have. We have a president. We have really, I mean, if you think about it, we had a country, and I just left the NATO leaders. I left the Middle East, the King of Saudi Arabia, Qatar, as you know, Mir, so great, and UAE. These are 3 great leaders. And then we just made a deal with NATO where they pay for everything, and we give them the ammunition and the missiles, and we give them whatever they want. We got to get that war stopped. It's so bad. But every leader said, no matter where, they all said the same thing to me. Some of them separately, but it's same words, just about. He said, it's amazing. 1 year ago, you had a dead country. We were dead. We didn't think you could ever come back. And now, today, you have the hottest country anywhere in the world. It's true. It's true. So, we're back in Pittsburgh to announce the largest package of investments in the history of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and it's not even close. I don't imagine it's too close. I don't think second is too close. That's a big statement. This afternoon, 20 leading technology and energy companies are announcing more than $92 billion of investments in Pennsylvania. And if you want, we could probably get them up. Let's talk to them right now. But this is a really triumphant day for the people of the Commonwealth and for the United States of America. We're doing things that nobody ever thought possible. As of about a month and a half ago, when we came back from the Middle East, we came back with $5.1 trillion of investments from the 3 countries that I mentioned, and they're great people, great leaders of those countries. But we came back with many, many planes that they are going to build through Boeing. They came back with a package of goods that were, nobody's seen. I don't think anybody's seen. $5.1 trillion. And we are now at about $16 trillion. And we're at a little bit less than 6 months, but really we're probably at 3 months because it took me a little time to get started, right? So in 3.5, 4 months, let's say, we have about $16 trillion. There's never been anything like that in history. You can go for years and they didn't have numbers like that. And if you look at the last administration, you had negative numbers. You didn't have positive numbers. You're going in the wrong direction. But we have the hottest country, and we're going to keep it that way. Today's commitments are ensuring that the future is going to be designed, built, and made right here in Pennsylvania and right here in Pittsburgh, and I have to say right here in the United States of America. We're building a future where American workers will forge the steel, produce the energy, build the factories, and really run a country like I believe like this country has never been run before. I think we have a true golden age for America. We've been showing it, and it truly is the hottest country anywhere in the world. And I'm honored to be in Pennsylvania, and I'm honored to be in Pittsburgh, and you're going to see some real action here, so get ready. Lots of jobs, lots of success. Really a beautiful thing is, it's going to be beautiful to behold. So enjoy yourselves, and I look forward to hearing some of your geniuses speak. If that's okay, I'll stay around, all right?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome back to the Lion Week in Review. As we close for the year, we will be bringing you brand new segments here on the show called Faith and Freedom 250. It's a celebration of our country as we approach that 250th milestone next July 4th. Here's our latest installment of Faith and Freedom 250 from the Herzog Foundation.
The United States of America was founded on a bedrock of religious principles. Now, this may seem out of step with what the media and mainstream education system have promoted for generations, but it is an undeniable truth.
From the earliest settlement of North America, over a century before the American Revolution, this continent was developed by people seeking religious freedom. The story of how America was populated and built is a story of faith. Faith in God and faith in each other. Faith in a society not governed by kings, but by neighbors, by those who shared in the same struggles and joys of life.
In 1630, John Winthrop delivered his famous City on a Hill sermon to settlers about to land in the New World. He urged, "We must delight in each other, make others' conditions our own, rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together. For we must consider that we shall be as a city on a hill, the eyes of all people upon us." These settlers had fled persecution in Europe. They were making a new covenant, not only with one another, but with God. Their goal? A society where their faith guided their daily lives.
A look at the eastern seaboard in the 1700s reveals a pattern. Religious groups fled Europe and settled in colonies where they could worship freely. Congregationalists in Massachusetts, Quakers in Pennsylvania, Catholics in Maryland, Anglicans, Lutherans, and Presbyterians in the Carolinas all came seeking freedom and grace, hoping to find peace in this life and perfection in the next.
With the Word of God serving as the primary book of instruction for most school children and churches providing the main meeting place in colonial America, religion and faith were the common bonds which tied a community together. These eternal truths also provided the framework for how society functioned. Faith wasn't just a personal thing back then, it was public. Faith wasn't separated from life, it shaped their everyday lives.
The religious fire that led to the colonization of the eastern seaboard would be fanned by the Great Awakening of the 1730s. In a direct response to the Age of Reason sweeping through Western civilization, the Great Awakening transferred the administration of faith from the few ordained clergy to individuals. Faith became deeply personal. Ordinary people, not just clergy, began to see their relationship with God as their own responsibility.
It's in this period that the engine of the American Revolution was born. The men and women who came of age during and directly after the Great Awakening would be those who challenged the greatest military force on the planet and forge a new nation with a new set of ideals. A study of those who attended the First and Second Continental Congresses will show a full range of religious practices among them. Church attendance was almost a given in the time period before the Revolution, a social norm in which a high percentage of the colonists believed. Surely there were deists among them, But even these often practiced the religion of their forebears, even as they philosophized about the rational nature of God.
Look at the Declaration of Independence, the founding document of our nation. It's full of references to God. It's clear that our rights don't come from a king or a government, they come from a higher power. They are unalienable, natural, God-given, and not up for debate. During the war, American leaders called on God constantly. They prayed for protection, for guidance, for victory. They gave thanks after every battle, every breakthrough, and every moment of hope.
In the Bill of Rights, religion has a preeminent spot in the First Amendment, restricting Congress from making any law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. The Constitution breaks with the classic model that each nation has its own religion and prohibits the government from forcing any one faith on its inhabitants. It goes on to deny the government from persecuting anyone for their own religious beliefs or practices. This often misinterpreted language gives the broadest freedom to citizens in the history of the world. It can be no accident that this is the very first right protected, proof of just how important faith was in the founding of the United States.
Nearly 20 years after the Declaration, George Washington stated the cause for faith plainly in his farewell address. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports, joining together our nation's future success in the foundation of faith.
A student of history cannot escape the multitude of references to biblical stories and lessons in the writings of the founders of our nation, nor can they miss the obvious impact of the age-old Judeo-Christian influence on our laws and on the structure of society. A nation without that foundation of faith wouldn't just be different, it would be something completely, wholly contrary to the founding tradition.